Meteora is the second studio album by American rock band Linkin Park. The album was produced by the band alongside Don Gilmore. The title Meteora is taken from the Greek Orthodox monasteries originally bearing the name. Meteora has a similar sound to Hybrid Theory, as described by critics, and the album took almost a year to be recorded. Meteora is located in between the town of Kalabaka and the village of Kostraki at the northwestern edge of the plain of Thessaly near the Penaios River and Pindus Mountains. The Meteora complex was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1988 because of its outstanding architecture and beauty.
There are 6 Meteora monasteries perched on the huge cliffs people can visit today. Serene, spiritual, magical, mystical, extraordinary, breathtaking, immense, inspiring, impressive. These are only some of the words people very often use in an effort to describe the Meteora monasteries. Visit Meteora, even if your interests are not deeply religious. It is the only way to enrich your feelings of spirituality that this area already exudes, no matter how long or brief your sojourn in our beautiful land.
Kalabaka, also spelled Kalambaka or Kalampaka, town has a population of 12,000 citizens and is situated on the foothills of an extraordinary geological phenomenon, the giant cliffs of Meteora. For thousands of years, people found refuge on the steep cliffs of Meteora and in the surrounding area. An ideal place to survive since people would be able to find clean water, an abundance of food sources, and shelter. In prehistory, the oldest known human settlement in the area dates back to 130,000 years and was found in the prehistoric cave of Theopetra, just 4 kilometers away from the modern town of Kalabaka. 24 monasteries were established atop the giant natural pillars and hill-like rounded boulders that dominate the local area, mainly from the second half of the 14th century under the local rule of Simeon Oroz. 6 of these are still active and open to visitors: the monasteries of Great Meteora, Varlam, St. Nicholas Anapazes, Razanu, Holy Trinity, and St. Stephen. The latter became a community of nuns in 1961, whereas the former 5 remain managed by monks.
And as the sun begins to descend, getting ready to touch the mountain ridges will bring you to a magical spot to enjoy the most captivating sunset views. Sitting on the edges of cliffs, you will feel the evening cool breeze blowing through giant cliffs rising above the valley. Allow your senses to explore moment by moment the dimming of the light as the sun sinks behind the mountains. It will be a perfect way to end a beautiful day at the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Meteora with an awe-inspiring tour to be remembered forever.